In a village nestled deep within a land of rolling white hills, where every winter painted the world in shades of snow and silver, a group of children gathered. With mittened hands and rosy cheeks, they rolled giant snowballs, one on top of the other, until a cheerful figure stood tall among them. A corncob pipe, a button nose, and 2 eyes made out of coal, and just like that, Frosty the snowman was born. But this Frosty was different. He wasn't just made of snow, he was woven from the dreams and whispers of the children who built him. They told him stories they'd read in books, tales of faraway places and grand adventures. The story that captured Frosty's heart the most was the one about the ocean. They described a world of endless blue, a great, breathing body of water that stretched to the very edge of the sky. They spoke of waves that crashed like thunder and then whispered as they kissed the shore, of salty air that smelled of freedom, and of creatures that danced in the deep. For a snowman who had only ever known the quiet stillness of a snowy landscape, the ocean sounded like the grandest magic of all. A desire, as deep and vast as the ocean itself, took root in his snowy heart. He yearned to see it, to hear its song, to feel its power. He would stand for hours, his coal eyes fixed on the horizon, imagining the shimmering water just beyond the farthest hill. The children would leave him each evening, their laughter fading into the twilight, and Frosty would be left with his one great dream, to see the ocean. The days grew longer, and the winter sun began to share its gentle warmth. The children noticed it first. The crispness in the air softened, and tiny drops of water began to glisten on the tips of branches. For the children, it was a sign of spring, of bike rides and green grass. But for Frosty, it was a clock, ticking away the moments he had left. He felt a strange new sensation, a loosening in his snowy form, a gentle trickle he hadn't felt before. He knew, with a certainty that was both scary and exciting, that his time was running out. If he was ever going to see the ocean, he had to leave now. So, one morning, just as the sun painted the eastern sky in hues of pink and gold, Frosty said a silent goodbye to the village that had been his home. He took his first wobbly step away from the town square, his branch arms swinging with purpose. The journey ahead was long and unknown, but the thought of the ocean pulled him forward like an invisible string. His first steps took him into a dense, silent forest. The tall pines, heavy with snow, seemed to bow to him as he passed. Here, he met a family of deer, their dark, curious eyes watching him from the trees. Seeing he meant no harm, the mother deer approached, and Frosty, in his simple, kind way, told her of his quest. The deer, knowing the woods better than anyone, guided him through the winding paths, showing him the safest route through the trees. Leaving the forest behind, Frosty found himself in vast, open fields, a patchwork of melting snow and emerging earth. The world was changing around him. Patches of green grass peeked through the white blanket, a promise of the life that was stirring beneath. He met a cheerful robin, the first of its flock to return from the south. The robin, delighted by the sight of a walking snowman, fluttered around Frosty's head, singing a song of encouragement. It flew ahead, a tiny, feathered scout, warning him of treacherous patches of mud and deep puddles where he might get stuck. Frosty was grateful for his new friend, and the robin's joyful melody became the soundtrack to his journey. He traveled through sleepy towns, where people would peek out their windows, their eyes wide with disbelief at the sight of a snowman on a mission. Some smiled, some waved, and some simply shook their heads in wonder. A friendly farm dog trotted alongside him for a while, its tail wagging, as if offering its companionship for a leg of the journey. Each encounter, no matter how brief, filled Frosty with warmth, a different kind of warmth than the sun's, one that strengthened his resolve instead of melting him away. He learned that the world was full of kindness, of creatures big and small willing to help a traveler on his way. His journey was no longer a solo quest. It was a shared adventure, a story being written with the help of every friend he made. Days turned into a week, and Frosty could feel the sun's power growing stronger. He was smaller now, his edges softer, his button nose a little looser. He had to travel more at night, resting during the day in the cool shadows of rocks or beneath the thick canopies of evergreen trees. The air began to change, too. It grew heavier, thicker, and carried a strange, new scent. It was a clean, sharp smell, unlike anything he'd ever known. It was the smell of salt. With a renewed surge of energy, Frosty pushed onward, his snowy feet moving faster. The sound started subtly, a low, distant hum that vibrated through the ground. As he walked, the hum grew into a rumble, then a roar. It was a sound of immense power, a constant, rhythmic crashing that seemed to shake the very air. His heart, made of snow and dreams, thumped with anticipation. He knew he was close. He followed the sound, climbing one final, grassy hill. The climb was difficult. He was much lighter now, and the warm breeze threatened to undo him completely. But the roar of the waves pulled him upward. He reached the top, and there it was. The ocean. It was more magnificent than any story, more beautiful than any dream. It was a vast, endless expanse of deep, shimmering blue, stretching out to meet the sky. White-crested waves rolled in, one after another, crashing against the cliffs below in a spectacular display of foam and spray. The sound was deafening, yet it was the most peaceful music Frosty had ever heard. The sun was high in the sky now, a brilliant orb of gold, and its light danced on the water, creating a million sparkling diamonds. Frosty stood there, mesmerized, his coal eyes wide with wonder. He had made it. He sat at the edge of the cliff, a small, melting snowman overlooking the infinite sea. The sun beat down on him, not as an enemy, but as a gentle hand guiding him to his final destination. He wasn't sad. How could he be? He had seen the one thing his heart had yearned for. He felt a profound sense of peace wash over him. His journey was complete. He began to melt faster now, his form dissolving into a stream of clear, cool water. The water trickled down the side of the cliff, weaving its way through the rocks and soil, drawn by the irresistible pull of the great body of water below. His button nose tumbled away, and his corncob pipe fell silently to the earth. His branch arms drooped and were reclaimed by the ground. The last thing he saw was the glorious, endless blue. The last thing he heard was the song of the waves. His watery form reached the bottom of the cliff and mingled with the spray from a crashing wave. Drop by drop, he flowed into the ocean. He became part of the endless blue, part of the rhythmic dance of the tides. He was no longer a snowman, confined to one place and one season. He was now part of the very thing he had longed to see. He was in the waves that crashed against the shore, in the salty mist that rose into the air, in the deep, mysterious currents that traveled to every corner of the world. Frosty the Snowman, who had been born of winter snow, had found his eternal home in the vast, timeless ocean, his dream fulfilled in the most beautiful way imaginable. And some say, if you listen closely to the waves on a quiet day, you can still hear the faint, happy sigh of a snowman who finally made it to the sea. Thank you so much for watching this story with us. If you enjoyed Frosty's journey, please give this video a like and subscribe for more heartwarming tales. See you next time.